in our industry, man. We've been kept in the shadows for so long.
Welcome to Hired the Podcast, a conversation about the world of work with some of the best and brightest minds in the industry. I'm Travis Miller, and today, very excited to have Jacob Sanchez with me. Jacob's an industry awareness and next-gen advocate for skilled trades in our industry, and he's got 10 years of experience revolutionizing the industrial industry for the next generation. He believes that through education and creative thinking, we can reshape the industrial world one voice at a time. He is one of the top voices of Gen Z in the industrial technology industry. He's the host of the How-To Show for MSC Industrial Supply, and he's really bringing the world of manufacturing to the next gen. Jacob, you got so much stuff coming up, so much stuff planned.
It's a mouthful, dude.
But you were just telling me before we hit record that you've got one of the coolest events coming up that I am so jealous of, that you've been invited to MC and judge a high school BattleBots competition.
Yes. So, and this was reached out to me. Like, this wasn't something I found. This wasn't something I was looking for, but like I need it in my life, and I am hyped. It may be high school and college because it's a school in Ohio called AWT. It's kind of like a trade school where people can go, and they reached out to me because I actually filmed some of my how-to series from season 1 in that facility, 2 episodes. I helped them get their newest robot arm. So now they're teaching robot programming. And yeah, they reached out and were like, hey, we do this BattleBot competition. It hasn't happened since like 2019, I think was what I saw on the YouTube video. And I thought it was like First Robotics or Vex, because that's what I judge, and that's more objective based, no battling. And I went to watch the YouTube video, and I saw Sparks, and I was like, there's no freaking way. That is going to be amazing. The weekend after April 17th, I think, is when I'm going to try to fit that in this year.
And the reason I brought that up to start the conversation is because I think stuff like that is so important. I mean, we all know about the current and coming labor shortage with all of the baby boomers leaving the industry. Our generation, we ain't been making babies fast enough to replace them. Generation ahead of us, they weren't making babies fast enough to replace them. So there's going to be less people for the workforce. And what are the things that we and the industry can do now to not only get the next generation interested in manufacturing and industrial tech, but the generation beyond that and the generation beyond that? One of my son, he's developing a growing interest in robotics and technology.
Nice.
He's 5, from watching the movie Big Hero 6. And there's a scene in the very beginning of the movie with bot fighting. And he's all about it in BattleBots. He loves that shit. And it makes me think that, and you're the expert on, how do we get kids, I mean, really, really little kids, excited about this industry, excited about this as a possible career?
I mean, dude, the biggest thing that I've done, or I've got to see, I'll start with what I've done, because I go out and I speak at schools, colleges. So I'll do anything from elementary all the way up to college. And I have a robot arm at home. It's a 6-axis robot arm. It goes from the ground, probably like up to here, 6 axes. It's awesome. And I'll take that to events. And I had this little girl, and I don't have kids. I'm 25. I don't understand age well. So I think she was like in like whatever age 3rd grade is.
8 or 9.
Whatever. Okay, yeah. So she was like 8 or 9, maybe a little younger, because I thought she was, let's go with 6.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, you want to like program this robot? And so I show her, this is how you move it on the laptop. You can grab this and move it here, and then you can watch it move here. And I turned down the speed because like I didn't want her like moving it too fast. And I guess she was of the age where like if they see you do something, they'll just undo it. And as soon as I stepped away, she bumped the speed back up. And I was like, oh, no, let me fix it. And I tried to fix it again, and she bumped it up. And I was like, you know what? I was like, if that's how she wants to learn, That's how she's going to learn. So I let her move it around full speed. I had my hand on the e-stop, like right here. And I let her do her thing as I'm trying to talk to mom, watch the robot. And she starts moving it towards this big 65-inch TV. And so I slammed on the e-stop and stopped the robot and told her what happened and rearranged it. And I just let her play. And I think that's a testament to, we shouldn't try to filter their learning and creativity at all times just to make us feel comfortable. I think you really just have to let them explore and do with the tools that they have. That's something that I learned in that instance. And I take that with me when I go out and do more of my things, like when I'm in first robotics. And first robotics goes all the way down to kindergarten.
Okay.
So from K through 12, you have these three different FLL, FTC, and FRC. I've judged them all. And something that I'll learn with the younger ones, so FLL, which is like kindergarten through sixth grade or something like that, is to not try to just talk to them as like, not every time you talk to a child does it have to be a learning experience for them. Like every time you talk to a kid, especially when they're in our industry, they're doing something that could really like get them excited. Talk to them as it's fun. Talk to them to get them excited. Don't everything out of your mouth. Don't make it something that has to be a teaching moment or a learning moment for that kid, because like in their shoes, this is just a fun day for them. You know what I mean? And if you can keep feeding into that, I think they're more receptive to like look at you as like a cool role model or somebody that like can inspire them instead of just like their teacher, you know what I mean? Or just some random stranger talking to them about something.
I'm not sure your advice has to stop at kids, you know, as leaders in industry working with people who are newer to the job, newer to the industry, or even veterans who have been around for years. If you're only spending all of your time trying to teach, trying to not control, but sometimes you just want to let people play. And that's kind of how you got your start. I'm not sure I want to do the whole tell me your story, you know. Well, my parents met in the summer of 19, but you got a pretty interesting journey in how you ended up in manufacturing and tech. Mm-hmm. And it came from a place of play, isn't that right?
Yeah, I've learned to sum this up faster and faster with every new podcast, every new speech I do. Long story short, man, the reason that I got into the engineering class in high school, because up until high school, I knew zero about this industry. I thought engineers were Iron Man, which means that they're fake. I'll never be that. Nobody in my family was ever that. They all worked two jobs in like office jobs, janitor jobs, like nobody was in engineering. Nobody went to college. This stuff was not for me. And I knew that. I was a little hooligan. One of your colleagues wrote an article on me and said something about being like a rebel without a cause or something, me growing up. And that was true until I got to high school. I tried to sign up for the cooking class. Cooking class was full because I wanted an easy A, and they threw me into engineering. And I was pissed. I was a C- kid, new school, new area. They throw me into engineering. I couldn't be madder. I had a mouth on me too, dude. Ever since I was in like first grade, I told my teacher she was fired in first grade. I've always had a mouth on me, and I was upset. And long story short, with that, the teacher spent time with me outside of class, outside of the structure, and I got to learn with my own autonomy and ask the questions I wanted to ask and learn at my pace. And once I made my first ring, my first part on a manual lathe, it never stopped for me. I spent every single waking moment in that classroom whenever I could. I would leave other classes after doing the work and saying, hey, can I go to Frank's class, the engineering class? And I would leave and go back to engineering class. That was the rest of high school for me, man. And I got picked up by Titans of CNC Academy. I'm one of the founding members for helping build up the academy that people use today. I'm one of the first kids in the entire world to ever make a Titans of CNC part when I was 16. And it just kept going from there, man. I kept learning. I kept wanting to know more. I would go to industry meetup events for local businesses at 17, telling CEOs of companies how I think they should help their their workers and do better. That was the rest of my life until here we are.
So what are you telling them now? What are you telling these CEOs now?
It's changed. Since then, I've gotten better at talking to them and not just mouthing off. I mean, now, dude, I really try to harp on that autonomy bit, especially when a company asks me to come in and say, Jacob, can you help us with some of our professional development? Like, we want to do more for our workers. How do we do more for our workers? And when it comes to training, aside from structuring that and having that actually documented and not just something in the ether, which is a lot of companies have. When people are learning, they need autonomy. And that doesn't mean it's a free for all. That doesn't mean you just go and do whatever you want and you don't help the company make money. But it also doesn't mean that you promise them a 3-month onboarding process. They're only a month in and you say, hey, we got this hot job. We need you on this job. And now it's trial by fire. That's not how you do it. So really bringing autonomy to the workplace when it comes to learning and making people feel that they're moving at their own pace, but they're on a path set by you, I think is really impactful for growth and making people feel like there's some type of structure, but that they're also getting the freedom to learn, if that makes sense.
How do you set that up? Because that takes a lot of trust for somebody that's new to come in and say, we've got some guardrails here for you, but you're the one responsible for heading down the path.
So the trust thing is a big thing, and that's something that gets brought up all the time. And this won't work for everybody, but nothing works for everyone. So why is this any different than any other process that you implement? Just because you say, oh, like some people can't be trusted, some people will never be able to be trusted. And if that person's not be able to be trusted with this, they're probably not going to be able to be trusted with a lot of other things. So that raises that point. But at the end of the day, it does really come from starting. And it doesn't have to be some harebrained, newfound curriculum that you spend the next year on. Pick something that, like if you're a job shop, we'll start there. You're a job shop, CNC machining. You want a better program for getting younger machinists in and started quicker on your shop floor. So set aside a time in their onboarding process where you teach them programming. You can either use some academies that are out there like Mastercam, Titans of CNC. There's some free courses out there where people post like CAD models and then you can program it. Or let them go to GrabCAD. Let them come up with their own design and say, hey, I really want to make this brake pad for my car, and then help them program it that way. So that's something that you're structuring where it's like, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to spend 2 months learning Mastercam. This is something you have to do. This is what you're going to do. We have our head programmer that is going to make sure you are learning how to do 3D adaptive milling, do all this stuff, feeds and speeds. But the freedom is you bring us what you want to make. If you want to grab a part off GrabCAD, if you want to help designing like a brake pad or something, that's what we're going to do. So that's something that is structured, and it's easy to transfer that knowledge because your head programmer, he has that knowledge of programming in his head, and then he's guiding the person through a project they already want to do, you know?
So how does somebody start in that industry? You know, how do they take that path? Or maybe a better question, how do they find companies and organizations that are going to allow them to walk down that path?
So that is going to be something that is it's mostly on us. There's 2 different ways. So if you're a company and you want those people that are going to be on that path and they're excited about our industry, we're assuming that they already know about the industry. Go to places where they are. Like there's so much of us out there that we talk about the skills gap, right? There's this, and the skills gap is usually viewed as people don't know about us, so they're not coming here. which is true. It was more true the past 10 to 15 years than it is now.
Okay.
Because if you're a business and you go to one of these organizations like First Robotics events or Skills USA events, that's a competition with hundreds and thousands of participants around the world. And you're telling me that if you went to your local First Robotics event in any state you're in, because they're everywhere, that you're not going to find a group of kids. It's made up of kids that are in this industry and excited, but nobody's talking to them. Industry doesn't go to these events barely ever. There was an event, and I know the impact that can happen when industry goes because I went to an event in St. Joseph, Michigan, near the headquarters of Whirlpool, where you get your fridges and washer dryers and stuff. And Whirlpool sponsors this event. They had one of their representatives there with the mic talking to these kids in the stand. This guy had these kids screaming Whirlpool's name, saying, "Who wants to work at Whirlpool?" And all these kids were like, "Yeah." I was looking around like, what the heck? That's the power that you can have as a business, going to where kids are already excited about our industry, but they don't have a guide, and be that guide for them. That's one aspect where you're going where people already know a little bit about the industry and you're guiding them towards you or towards us in general. The other way is where industry has to step up a little more. And it's not easy. Anything we do, dude, we make freaking spaceship parts. Nothing we do is easy. But all I'm saying is industry has to step up a little bit when it comes to being more visible to other young people or new people to the industry. It doesn't matter what age they are. If they're new to the industry, they can always come in. I know people that quit a therapy job and are now a marketing manager at an EDM company. But it's going to take us stepping up on social. It's going to take us stepping up at community events. So not just like trade shows, but public community events being shown off there to a kind of mystery audience, but at least you're building visibility and you're getting people to get that spark in them, get that click where, oh, this is something I can do and I don't have to be an engineer, or I don't have to have a degree, or I don't have to be technical. I can do like the sales. I can do marketing. I can be a project manager. Like, that's the conversations we need to start having in these public settings as industry professionals.
Well, it's the long game. And so it's really hard, even as a leader, to do a task now that will have no impact on your business in the next 3 to 5 years. This is about shaping the industry 10, 15 years from now. And I understand the difficulty in investing the time and money in that. But if there's not enough of us that do it now, the industry is going to suffer dramatically in the not too distant future.
And in the defense of all businesses and in the defense of every industry sector, everybody is allowed to run their business however they want. You're the owner. That's your baby. That's what you do. If your goal in starting the company that you have was to, hey, I want this to eventually make me money so I can retire at 50 plus, 40 plus, whatever the age is, and I want to get my paycheck from this company being handed off to someone else, and I want to do my life thing, that's cool. I don't hate you for that. Like, do what you want to do. But if you're somebody who in their mind is like, I want this company around for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, I want this to be around when I'm dead, that is something you need to invest in. And it has to be structured. Like, the only way a company can truly survive for those periods of time is with education, with training, in place documentation that is structured and changing as generations come in, as new thoughts come in, new people come in, changing that to not just appease them, but to work with them. You constantly it's a living organism. Like, your business has to be living, breathing, and growing, just like we all do as we age and we change. Your business has to adapt sometimes. I think we look at it too dramatically when we start investing in some of that stuff, and we think everything has to be a 1 to 1.5 ratio handoff where I'm going to give you $1 and I get $1.50 back. That means I made money. That's good business, right? I should never do a 1-to-1. Why would I give you $1 if all I'm going to get is $1? It doesn't make sense. I think we look at some things in our business when it comes to marketing, education, publicity as a one-to-one ratio, and it's not.
Yeah. So what are some things? Let's focus on the people who want to build a legacy company.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that they should be doing, they should be focusing on to ensure that the industry is in a place where their legacy can thrive?
Yeah. I'm going to start with ways that they need to be taking the action that they take. Whether the action that you're taking is investing in a tech center, whether it's doing more posts on social media, whether it's going to more schools, the way you need to go about that action is with consistency, is number one. There's two things. Number one is consistency. Do not think you can just do this for 3 months, once every 3 months, and you're going to see an impact. Don't think you can do it twice a month for 3 months and you're going to see an impact. Consistency is the biggest failure that you will face in anything, but it's where you're going to grow. And my channel is a testament to that. When I started my LinkedIn in automation, which I was a CNC machinist guy, I knew nobody in automation. I moved to Michigan, knew nobody here. All my family's back in California. I started a LinkedIn channel, not knowing what the heck. I just wanted to get out there. I wanted to create again. And I stuck with it. Like if I didn't have consistency, and that doesn't mean it was all good. Like I had terrible posts. If you look back at how I would write and what I was posting about, like it was terrible quality. But consistency saw me through. Consistency got me to my first 1,000 followers. Consistency got me my first 5 million viral post. That's what happened. It wasn't that I was naturally good at this stuff. It was consistency. So please, whatever you do to move forward with your legacy, do it with consistency and be okay with failure. We need to start accepting failure as something to celebrate, not something to hide from your boss. You know what I mean?
I do. What was your, I think you know, because I know mine. What was your worst video?
It wasn't even, I had a lot, so I got to think. The worst one wasn't a video for me. It was a meme that I tried to do because I wanted to try to be funny. And I was like, this is a hilarious meme. It was the one where the guy pulls out like the scroll of truth and then it has something written on it and then he throws it. And I posted that, dude. I put effort into that and it got like 20 views and I deleted it. I was so distraught. I was like, wow, nobody thinks I'm funny.
When I first started, and this was 2 offices ago. So this had to be at least 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even longer. And I wanted to start making video job posts. And I remember I made a video job post for a plant manager for a dairy company out in Nebraska or something. And I was so animated and I'm leaning into the camera. I got my face up like this close and I'm gesticulating like I'm fucking Gallagher up there. Where did I come up with Gallagher? Who listening to this is going to know who Gallagher is? But anyway, and then I posted it, and I don't even think I had it on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if there was even video content at LinkedIn at the point, but it was on YouTube. It got 2 views. And then I thought, I'm like, tell me a dairy plant manager in Nebraska who is on YouTube searching for job postings. I'm like, that was probably not a good use of my time. But consistency is the key. You got to start somewhere. So
yeah, consistency is a big one, and then the second one is going through trials. And a trial is not trying something, it failing, and then you not doing that again.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a trial. That's seeing something that failed, you not liking it, and running away. Trials are doing something, seeing that it failed, see where you can make a 5%, 10% adjustment, and doing it again, and doing it again. Insanity is only when you repeat the same thing and are expecting a different outcome is when something should be labeled insanity. This
Mm-hmm.
is not. This is experimentation. This is trial and error. This is consistency. You're also learning consistency in this process. And it is going to, and if you collect that data and actually make changes, it is going to change the way that you do your business. And this is, I'm talking from a marketing content creation standpoint, but even machining, even when I was a machinist and I was learning feeds and speeds, I would set up my feeds and speeds, go run my steel when I was learning how to machine 316 stainless. I'm roughing it and I'm running and I'm like, okay, my feed per tooth is probably feed per tooth for that was probably at like a 0.045 when I was first starting out. So not that aggressive. Aluminum, you can go up to 0.01 thou. But this was 316 stainless. And then I would just, on the Haas control panels, you have a little 10% button on your spindle speed and your feed rate. And I just hit the button, 10%. I'd listen. Okay, sounds good. 10%, I'd listen. Oh, that doesn't sound good. I'd go 10, 20. So I kept going up. I didn't go back to what I thought sounded good. I went higher. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. I had to get past that point of garbage to get to this really good stuff. If I would have went back, I wouldn't have been able to get here. And sometimes when I was doing that, I'd break an end mill, then you bump it back 10, 20%, and then you run it. That's trial and error. And that's something that I think a lot of businesses can learn to incorporate into their business development, their product development, is being okay with doing trial and error and recording that data. Don't just do it and then forget about it. Like actually record that stuff.
Mm-hmm. You still got your hand in it all? You still do any machining?
Oh, dude. Season 2, episode 1 of How To. So my How To series went great last year, season 1. They loved it so much. We're doing season 2, doubling the amount of episodes. Episode 1 was at a machine shop, NTL Industries in Detroit. He's running Nitronic 50, an exotic material. I'm there with the Seco tool representative, the shop owner, and we're talking shop, dude. Like, he's running his feeds and speeds, and I was like, hey, I've never ran Nitronic 50, but like I've ran titanium and ink, and I was like, why aren't you going this? Like, what's your feed per tooth? And he was like, oh, I'm bumping it up, and we started chatting about it. So when I go like film, when I host certain things, or when I go speak at machine shop programs and stuff around the country, like I still get in it. I don't just walk in there with like a suit and tie, like in a button up, and pretend I don't know anything. Like I get in their face, and I think that's something that I make sure that I can do in any industry. I'm not an expert in anything. There's various levels. I am a damn good machinist. I can really battle it out with anybody when it comes to 5-axis programming, ball tracking. Like I am very good. On a lot of other industries like plastics, I'll know enough to be dangerous. I took an additive manufacturing course from Mark Ford University, and being dangerous, I feel like, is when you can go up to that expert or somebody that's evolving in their career, but that's what they do for a job every day, and you can challenge them. I think being dangerous is being able to have enough information, the right information, to go up and be like, hey, like, why aren't you doing this? Like, have you thought about this? And get their wheels turning. I think that's something that I do very well, is make sure that I stay dangerous at least.
Where do you see the industry going? If somebody's new or newish in it, where do you think they should be focusing their efforts so that they can continue to be dangerous in 3 to 5 years?
So I think some really thriving spaces right now. I mean, the cobotics field in automation has blown up quite a bit just since I've been in the industry. Back in 2020, I filmed the CRX from FANUC getting unveiled for the first time in America. People didn't care about cobots back then, even for a long. They've been around way longer than that, but now people are really adopting cobots. I think you're seeing more machine shops venture into like the ITAR registration type of jobs, which is like government jobs and stuff. So I think if you start learning about ITAR registration, certain ISO certifications, and you can help level up a shop in that way, that's going to be a big deal because those jobs are nuts. Not everybody can take them. Not everybody can do them.
How come?
And that's going to open up.
Why are they so nuts?
Because those are, you can only get those jobs with those certifications, certain type of ISO certifications, and then the ITAR is for not just government jobs. It's government, aerospace, certain medical, and it's due to the high precision, the exotic materials, the industry that's going in. Like if you're making what are they called? The titanium kneecaps.
Okay.
Like that gets made at a job shop. But that can't just get made at a mom and pop shop. Like you have to have a certain set of requirements, and the documentation for this stuff too. Like when we did aerospace, the documentation is like this thick, and it has to have every signature. Everything has to be perfect. So you can't like fudge that stuff. When you're a machine shop of that caliber, there is no getting around those things. Like on some other jobs where you like, oh, I'm going to skip this inspection and do every 5 instead of every 1 or something. So I think getting into that, or helping a job shop or a business get into that, I think you'd bring a lot of value. IT and cybersecurity, I'm not in, but I've heard a lot of conversations lately about just that sector in general. I think that's going to be a big deal. Not something I'm in, but something I think people should look out for.
Yeah, I see cybersecurity keeps getting crazier and crazier and more lucrative to take advantage of companies. And I just think it's going to become a much bigger problem unless more people are investing the time and getting good at it.
Yes. Agreed. I have no idea about that sector, but I've been hearing a lot of conversations about it.
Well, I'm amazed we've made it 32 minutes into a podcast focusing on technology without talking about artificial intelligence. What do you see that, how do you see that affecting the future of this industry?
So it's a little different for me, and I guess that's why I don't bring it up a lot, because people's perceptions of AI have just been interesting. Like people have been branding AI like vision systems in our industry for the past 4 years or something, 3 years. So I think I got desensitized to it early. Let's start from like a marketing content perspective. I use AI all the time. I'll have AI help me write a baseline for like quotes, proposals, to guide my thoughts. Like I write stuff down so much in general that when I can use AI as like a sounding board for helping me get what's in my head out. Like when I use AI, I don't take from it. I help it take from me. So the information that I'm trying to get out of this AI isn't just what it spits out. I'm trying to get what I have in here, and I just can't do it without a sounding board and somebody to like get my ball rolling, you know? So I use that in the content marketing, business development world. I'll have it help me like, hey, what do you think about this idea that I'm working with this company on, helping them get unlimited vacation time and blah, blah, blah. So I'll bounce ideas off like that. When it comes to our industry, man, I mean, you've seen smart, intelligent vision systems for a while now. You've seen vision systems that are able for pick and place, but for 3D bin picking. You've seen, you can teach vision systems a lot of stuff where you say, hey, look for this part in this orientation. And if it's not in that orientation, take a picture and make it that orientation. So I wrote a code one time where I loaded this thing in and I was like, look for this, grab it. And the robot, depending how the part would come in, it would move on its own to pick up that part. I didn't train it to do the motions that it would do to grab it. It did it itself. So that kind of stuff's been around for a while. I think companies need to not look at AI as something that like is going to replace a person. I think companies need to look at AI as people using AI are going to replace a person. Me as a user of AI will replace somebody that is not. That's how you should be looking at AI.
Yeah, you're not the first person I've heard to put it that way, but I think that's a really good way to think about it. Like anything, it's a tool. I think about it in terms of the recruiting industry, which I can speak to a lot better than in the industrial technology industry. But for there's always something that's going to come along that's going to kill the recruiting industry. Job boards are going to kill the recruiting industry. Career Builder is going to kill the recruiting industry. LinkedIn is going to kill the recruiting industry. Virtual interviews are going to kill the recruiting industry. Artificial intelligence is going to kill the recruiting industry. Nothing's killed it yet, but people that haven't adapted to those new technologies are the ones that have really struggled to succeed. And I think it's just embracing a new tool. But the people that embrace it and use it well will have an advantage over people that don't.
Yeah. And that's something that you see a lot with when I'm talking about like education, I'm talking about training, like it's the same exact thing. Like that's just another asset that you can use to develop your business, and people that do that and invest in that are going to perform better than people that don't. You know what I mean? Like it's not a dream of mine that more companies start getting involved with education and training, internal and external. I'm not talking just reaching out to people. I'm talking about training the people you have well to keep them. That's not like a fantasy of mine. Like I'm telling people, like if you do not do this, like you are going to fail, not now, but 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. I'm already seeing a big wave just this year alone. And I've been talking about this wave for the past 2 years. This year, you're seeing a lot more shows and trade shows invest in education initiatives, whether that's them announcing they're having bigger pavilions, they're having a longer education day. You're seeing this start to come out more from the trade show perspective, and it's only going to grow from there.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think this wave is finally starting to crest?
I think because people are finally figuring it out. I think people are finally seeing that, robots are filling these gaps for jobs that we can't get people to fill. So that's cool. We're starting to get robots in there. But robots aren't going to help you do your sales, your marketing, your project management. Because again, AI can't replace that stuff, not fully. So you still need bodies doing these things. And there are no bodies that have the skill set that you want out there right now. So you need to do something different. You need to move things around internally to have more development externally coming in. That's something that I've been harping on more the past maybe like 6 months. I realized that I was talking so much about reaching out to education, doing stuff with schools, doing stuff with training, and I kind of forgot about like it's more than just about the kids. Like when I say kids, and like the reason I'm starting my MFG Kids website, an Animation Kids website, the kid word for me isn't just like an age. It's a personality almost. Like it's like a feeling. Like I believe like my favorite old people, and I call them old because they're actually 70. All right, they're not 40. They're 70. That's old. My favorite ones I've met in the industry, they're like kids still. And that shouldn't be an insult. That should be a compliment for any age. So I just wanted to harp on that real quick too, is that we need to not just be looking at training the kids, getting the kids excited, but we also need to be focusing on our people and how can we provide a better environment for them to grow professionally and help the business grow as well.
Well, it goes all the way back to the very beginning of this conversation, is companies that can embrace the kid, that have a culture of play and autonomy, that allow people to enjoy the work that they're doing, not just the results of their work. I think those are the ones that are able to attract the best people and allow those best people to thrive.
Imagine you didn't have certain workers, because a lot of businesses, they have, Joe is always angry or Joe's feisty or something. Joe goes home and doesn't want to talk about work with his family and kids because it makes him mad. And before daddy gets home, mommy has to say, don't mention work to dad. Remember, just don't talk. Like why would you want that for a person? Like even not wanting that for a person, nobody should ever have to go through that. Like not a family, not a person. You should never hate your job so much that the mere mention of it incites rage. And I'm not saying that everybody has to be all hunky dory and love their jobs and blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm just saying they shouldn't have to hate it with every fiber of their being. No, and nobody wants to work every single day for the rest of their life. All of us would love to go to Cancun, we go to love to Europe whenever we want and stuff, but we shouldn't dread work every single day. We shouldn't dread going to our 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever you do, and then just waiting to get home for 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day. That how much stress that puts on your body and on your mind. Imagine if we can cultivate workplaces where it's just enjoyable, where it's just a part of life. It's something that you can either choose to do and have a good time doing it, or you can go out on your own and you can be a freelancer. You can be an adventurer. You can go and try doing capitalist things, entrepreneurial things. So I just think that's something we need to start feeding into more, especially in our industry, man. We've been kept in the shadows for so long.
Well, it's evident that you certainly don't detest your job. So
no, I love what I get to do. I love the people that I get to be around, the adventures I get to have, the conversations that I have, the emotions that I have, man. I've had people come to me with tears in their eyes before. I've had DMs of people saying that, like, you talked about this mental health thing and it really helped me. And now I make like mental health TikToks. And then the emotions I get, man, as I'm getting older, I'm only 25, but as I'm getting older, I'm finding myself more emotional when I really let my passion out and I talk about certain things. Like at the end of News and Brews last week, this awesome event for ATX West, IME West, incredible team came together for interviews and conversations with industry on the shop floor. At the end of it, I asked my director, I was like, hey, do you mind if I give a speech? Dude, I was fine before this speech. I start talking and telling the people about how this may be a job to us. Like, you came here to just do your job. But to people out there, to somebody out there, like, this could have changed their life. And I can't point to you and say it was that person. It was that person. We changed that person's life. But I know for a fact something we did today, this week, is going to change somebody's life now, a month from now, a year from now. It will affect them, and like, take pride in that. And I start getting all choked up, and then I had to stop talking. I was like, all right, everybody go back to work.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, this has been great. Really appreciate it. You're really a tremendous advocate for the industry and the people in it, and creating environments where people really have the opportunity to thrive at great companies. So kudos to you, my man. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to track you down?
Yeah, LinkedIn's like texting for me. Like, DM on LinkedIn, just Jacob Sanchez. You'll see this mug next to like a little spotlight with a microphone. That's texting for me. And then I have a TikTok now, Jacob Makes, MFG Kid, where I'm starting to do more just fun, creative videos on there. But those are the best ways right now.
Well, hopefully your TikToks get better traction than your scroll memes.
Yeah, it's already doing very good, so I'm happy.
This has been Hired the Podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure to subscribe if you want to make sure you're hearing the latest podcast. Big thank you to our producer, Noah Cuff. I'm Travis Miller with Jacob Sanchez today. This has been Hired the Podcast. Talk to y'all later.